Okay, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. We are here to talk about the Summer Oxford program at Magdalen College. And we are joined today by the director of the program, as well as some wonderful alum. I will do a quick agenda run through, and then I will do some introductions. Today we are going to be covering what is CGIS, and we'll go into program overviews, academics, accommodations, and daily living, the Wales excursion, which is an exciting part, how to go about actually applying, as well as financial aid and scholarships for the program. Really quickly, what is CGIS? We are the Center for Global and Intercultural Study. We are the largest study abroad office on campus, and we are housed under LSA, so we primarily serve LSA students. However, any undergraduate from across the entire U of M community is welcome to participate in any of our 120 plus programs in over 45 countries. My name is Elise, and I am the study abroad advisor for pretty much almost all of the UK programs at CGIS. I am your main point of contact for things on the U of M side. And then I would like to pass it over to Charlie to go ahead and introduce himself, and then to our alum after that.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the introduction, Elise, and nice to see you, everybody. I'm Charlie Addison, the program director of the Oxford Academic Summer Program, based at Magdalen College. We've been running amazing study abroad experiences since 1978 with the University of Michigan as founder partners. I came to the study abroad fair, so no doubt, hopefully saw a few of you there back in October. Hopefully able to answer some of your questions, and I'm joined by our amazing graduate resident advisor and now communication and marketing manager, Alicia Videz, who's joining us, and some amazing alumni who come on the program with us last year, Bella and Iris. Yeah, we're looking forward to meeting all of you, hopefully talking through what's involved, and hopefully we can, between three of us, answer all of your questions. Warm welcome.
Alicia, go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. Hey, everyone. It's so nice to be with all of you today. Like Charlie said, I am the graduate resident advisor for the program. I will be your point of contact there, and I have recently been offered the opportunity to also be the marketing and communications manager. My role with Oxford Academic Summer School has now kind of evolved a little bit. I'm a little bit more involved than I used to be, and that's really exciting. This is an amazing program, and I'm so excited that all of you are here and interested in it as well. Yeah.
And then Bella or Iris, whichever one wants to start.
I can start. Okay. Hi, guys. My name's Bella. I'm a current senior at UMich. I do program in the environment. And the program I did at the Oxford program was the environmental studies. So I can answer any questions later if anyone has any.
And then, hi, I'm Iris. I'm also a senior, and I did the English Literature Jane Austen course. And it wasn't my first choice, I will say, but it was absolutely incredible. And I would love to talk about it. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to answer any questions. And Alicia hid the fact that she got promoted from us, but I love you still, Alicia, and congratulations.
Thank you.
We will have some time at the end of the presentation for some spotlights for our alums to talk more about their experience. But if you all have anything to contribute throughout as we're going through, feel free to pipe up or add it in the chat for everyone too, because your perspective is invaluable. Moving right along. Heading into the program overview. Charlie, I feel like these next few slides are probably going to be mostly you. So go ahead and take it away. Just let me know when you want me to move on to the next.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, as you can see here, we've been running the program now with North American universities exclusively since the late 70s. Rodri Williams, who lectured on our program in 2024, was actually one of the founding professors. And my dad, Dr. Ken Addison, one of the great climate change scientists at Oxford, spending his entire career there, then picked up the program and has been running it since. I got involved around 10 years ago. My background is in business, media, entrepreneurialism, and I proposed the creation of a business program, which basically was around the creation of an MBA, I guess, class which sat alongside our academic program. And what has happened is over the last 10 years, I've become more and more involved in the program before assuming leadership of it in 2023. It's working. Excuse me, I've got a goddamn puppy here who is 10 weeks old, who is making one hell of a noise. But hey, this is Bodhi, so he won't be on the program. You'll be pleased to know because we won't get much done. Apologies. So Michigan with founding partners. Each year we have amazing students that come represent the university. We have the university as one of our kind of key applicant drivers. So we kind of try and I guess prioritize the applicants where best possible. This has been a very successful transatlantic relationship. I think from what we've been able to do in the last couple of years is start to look at what's working well in the program and begin to grow it. And last year we were able to add in some additional accommodation at the nearby St. Edmund Hall or Teddy Hall College, which is adjacent. It's actually a bit older than Magdalen, and we're able to house some additional students there, which we will be able to continue this year. So yeah, that's the kind of main opening gambit. If you want to fire through the next slide, Elise.
Yep.
So Oxford is quite unique in terms of its, I guess, academic delivery. The colleges themselves are how we break up mainly the residential part of the university. The actual university itself, as an accrediting body, doesn't house the students. So there are 43 colleges across Oxford, which many of which are very, very old. So Magdalen and Teddy Hall are definitely two amongst the oldest. We can see here that it traces its learning back to 1096, and University of Oxford was actually voted in the fall this year as the #1 university in the world as a premier institution. So the idea is these individual states, as they're referred to here, were initially built around a sort of monastic monastery style living accommodation, because that was the only really sort of proven way of being able to house and educate and keep people in one place back in the Middle Ages around this period. If you were rich enough, you had a castle. If you weren't, you probably lived in a mud hut, and everybody else in between probably lived in a monastery. So that's how a lot of the colleges were actually originally built. Magdalen, we're really fortunate, is considered one of the big three in terms of its grandeur, its alumni as well. They all have kind of mini individual specialisms in their teaching, but it's great because it's a city centre location. You're going to have access to some incredible facilities whilst you're here, including the Ashmolean Museum and also the Bodleian Library. These are uniquely positioned to give you a fantastic learning experience, and the university itself is only probably an hour's travel from London. It positions Oxford really well for travel during your free time, of which you'll have quite a bit of time to kind of experience getting out to see wider parts of the UK and Europe where possible. Oxford itself is actually a medieval city, but with excellent transport links, so you'll find yourself pretty much in the thick of everything.
Yeah, the one thing I will sort of emphasize, and again, this is probably a very American way of looking at it, but the idea again that each college is sort of like a separate state that has its own like ways of doing things, its own sort of unique personality and reputation, and then they are incorporated into the larger like nation of the university. And so they're still beholden to all the university laws and regulations and policies, but there may be some things that they do a little differently. And so the colleges are not separated by academic subject area like you're used to here on campus at U of M and at a lot of other American universities. So there are different academic subject areas, from the humanities to the natural sciences, all housed within one college across multiple colleges. So that's definitely a difference. And I know, again, that's probably so American to think of it like states and the country, but that's the best analogy I've come up with so far.
Cool. So we're going to locate most of our students at Magdalen College. It's based on High Street. High Street in most English cities or towns is generally considered the main street or the kind of premier main drag where most of the sort of entertainment or central important businesses and buildings will be located. Magdalen traces its history back to 1458, which was founded by Bishop of Winchester. I think it was William Waynflete. As I said, it's built around this monastic cloister. So if you see this middle picture here, you can see these kind of four sides of a quad with a central tower. Easily one of the most photographed scenes of backdrops we'll see in Oxford. One of the most photographed colleges as well. It's got around 600 students. Oxford has very few students to academics. It's kind of almost an even split in terms of ongoing research, etc. So when you guys invade in the summer and we have pretty much the college to ourselves, and we do some pretty awesome things during your time there in terms of dining experiences and learning experiences. As I said here, famous alumni including Oscar Wilde and C.S. Lewis. The college played filming locations for the likes of Harry Potter, as did its adjacent colleges as well. It's surrounded by its own deer park. And you can see here the great hall in which we do our dining. So your breakfast, lunch, and dinner will be served here, including our Monday night banquet. So this is kind of a highlight of the program, is where we bring in guest speakers, multidisciplinary, who will come in. We have drinks on the reception lawn here in the quad, and then we go and have a three-course meal. We do that every Monday. So I think there'll be five of those during your stay, and it will give you an opportunity to experience English cuisine, which I think is pretty good. Location wise, Teddy Hall, St. Edmund Hall is literally it's 1 block down the road, about a 2 to 3 minute walk. We do more walking in England. It's been pointed out to me after mine and Elise's famous walking mission around Oxford, I think around 18 months ago. So this is the 3 minute walk. We're going to be locating some students a little further away this year at Thomas's house on the Iffley Road, which is again sort of center of the city, and it's about a 5 minute walk from Magdalen. I don't anticipate, unless you specifically request, that Michigan students will be housed there. We're going to be looking to house all of you in Magdalen. The Magdalen accommodation is good. You'll be spread between the Swithins and Cloister and New Building, and we'll come back onto rooms in a little bit. Sir Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, was a Teddy Hall alumni, if you're interested. Although I don't think he's doing them a great reputational service at the moment, but we'll see. I'm not very political, but he's not everybody's cup of tea, as I guess is your president. Right, next slide. So we're going to be running this program a little later this year on account of some large well, I think it's an anniversary kind of program that's been running the university this year. So we'll be running this from what we will be calling the 4th of July. So that very important day to the great North American people. I'm not entirely sure why, but I'm pretty sure it's something to do with dumping all of our tea in Boston Harbor. So thanks for that. And we'll be running that through till the 8th of August. So it's a 5-week program. Your program fees are all included later in the kind of brochures, etc. And the nice part is this should include and will include all of your tuition, accommodation, meals, excursions. So you're just going to basically want to bring your own spending money on top of that. We're going to be accepting around 30 students onto the program this year. Michigan, again, have sent a large contingent of students each year. We recently did an honors college presentation to one of the university partners who commented how great they thought the Michigan students were, and it was really nice to come both to the study abroad fair in your hall, dance hall back in the fall, to hear that many of our students were actually meeting and traveling and catching up with each other from various institutions after the summer, from Moravian and Denver University as well, which I thought was amazing because it shows the kind of friendships which I know will be part of this experience, this incredible formative experience where I believe you'll make friends for you'll hold for the rest of your lives. So you're going to come from a mix of different programs, but there'll be a good contingent of Michigan students. What we're going to do this year is kind of look and build upon what we know works really well. But we're going to continue to refine and improve. So one of the things we wanted to really kind of polish this year was our Wales excursion, which we'll come to. So you can see here the view from, I think it's Carnarvon Castle in North Wales. It's part of our 4-day Welsh excursion. We're going to make it more interdisciplinary, so it's going to bring in all elements of the program together. It's an opportunity, if you've seen your Wrexham documentary with Ryan Reynolds, to go to a country within a country. Wales is important to me, my kind of spiritual home. As a proud Celt, it's an opportunity to come and see all of the castles that Edward I built up along the Welsh coast, because he could never actually conquer Wales, so he kind of conquered it from the outside and was able to kind of source it and supply it from the sea. So we're going to see some incredible buildings which are going to line the coast. It's quite intense in terms of a travel program. We'll run through what that's involved as well. Again, a couple of tweaks to that from last year. The main thing is we're looking at what has been working for the last 40 plus years and improving it, and also maintaining the traditions that have been founded along the way of what works well and has worked well with the University of Michigan for all of this time. So hopefully the experience will be sort of very closely aligned to that which Iris and Bella have had this summer. The application window is now open. We'll talk a little bit more about how you go about applying. You can apply directly through the website, which is oxsummerschools.co.uk. It's in all of the brochures. You'll also need to apply, I believe, through CGIS, and I think Elise will cover this. There's no penalty for not applying directly to us, but whatever happens, you definitely want to be putting your application through CGIS as well. It's helpful to us to apply through the website because it also gives us some indication of our numbers, and also because the program had so many applicants last year, we wanted to make sure that we were communicating with students that were communicating and reciprocating in their communication, because between now and February, March, I'm sure you guys are going to be looking at all sorts of opportunities to study abroad. We absolutely love you to come and study with us in Oxford. It's possible your plans may change, but from our perspective, for when it comes to offering places, we want to be offering it to students who are quick to come back to us and communicate their needs, etc. There's a section on the website around things like financial aid. The program works really closely with the university in helping and understanding students who are on the financial aid track. There's absolutely no penalty in terms of being on that track. What we try and do is come up with a payment schedule that works with your payment dates in terms of when that arrives. It may not necessarily always align with our deposit and balance schedule, and it was a case of just working around that to make sure that you guys are able to participate as normal. All we ask is that you let us know during the process if you're receiving financial aid, that you let us know so we can kind of come up with that and formulate that flexibility for you. That's pretty much it. On to the academics part. Is this me, or is it this the rest of you guys? Elise, do you want me to keep going, or these are our courses?
You are welcome to keep going for this part.
Okay.
If you'd like.
So basically, we've got three forms of programs. So there's the English literature, there's environmental science, and medieval history. We've moved one of them. I think there's supernatural. We've got supernatty in there. Anyway, supernatural is moved back into English literature. It's pointed out by our professor that it kind of sat there better than medieval. This has basically been the origin of the program for the last 40 years. Shakespeare Without Fear was the kind of way of tackling the study of Shakespeare without the pompousness and I guess the great fear that comes from the complexity of the language, and a way of opening that up and experiencing. Jane Austen, I think. Alicia was on the program forum. We'll be able to talk to you all about that. The Inklings of Oxford come to us from a frame of perspective of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and we get into some of the famous literary figures of Oxford. The prison literature track was really popular as well, and a new program that's been added this year was Page to Screen, which was how we take concepts of classic texts and then bring them into the big screen, which is being delivered by some of our existing professors. Death, Nature, and the Supernatural Comes to us with a medieval slant, but definitely need in the literature track. And finally, sort of the power of words and the origin of the English language for those of you interested in the technical elements. Our environmental program has been consolidated, so we've been running a global catastrophic risk climate change program and landscape development program pretty much for the last 40 years. The last 3 years, we've taught this as a blended course because it's so interlinked. So we've formalized that into its current context here, which is climate change, landscape development, global risk and resilience. And that's pretty much what Bella would have studied, and creation of a new sustainable development in practice course, which is around the United Nations SDG goals, which you can feel free to research. We will cover around 7 of those 14 SDGs. And then finally, medieval history. For those of you interested in castles, conquest, and colonization, there's a course for that, and also Arthurian tradition. By and large, we try and give students their first choice courses. As you heard from Iris, was offered a second choice course. It's happens. Some courses receive extraordinary popularity for sometimes just pure coincidence, or I'm not entirely sure why, but we try and make sure that you guys, if you're going to be accepted onto a program, that you're kind of communicated from the off. The goalposts don't change. So we're going to try and allocate you onto your preference course. If not, you've got a backup and even a third backup. You're going to know what you're studying and where you're going to be living well ahead of accepting your place in travel. So it just means that you have the best possible start in terms of preparing for your time in Oxford. So you'll pick one of these. The environmental science course is an 8-credit course. The others are 6-credit courses. There is an option to upgrade your English literature and medieval history courses to the full 8 credits by simply submitting a 2,500-word essay after your study in Oxford, which will probably be based upon the Wales field trip and your interdisciplinary study within it. So that'll all be clarified later. You'll need to let CGIS know if you'd like to set that essay or not ahead of travel, and we try and make sure we keep the line tight with you throughout the summer to make sure that if you do opt to complete that essay, that you then go ahead and complete it by I think the end of September.
Yep. And we'll make sure to clarify all the dates for when that has to be solidified and such as well. Iris, it looked like you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, like whenever I applied for the program, I originally, so when Charlie was speaking to that, I got my second choice. I had originally applied for the prison literature, and I applied for that program because I'd been doing, if anyone's familiar with the Prison Creative Arts Project, I'm going into like my 4th year working with them. And so I had never read Jane Austen. Like, I'm not an English student, I'm anthropology, museum studies, like archaeology, but I still went and like, I'm here to talk about it because truly, like, I don't know. The feedback I got from my essays was like, I've been in a lot of upper level writing requirements here. I've done the New England Literature program, like grad level courses. The feedback that you get is like, it's really good. And Bella's shaking her head. I know Alicia did this program too. Like, I'm sure they can speak to it. Like, you get good feedback. You really do.
Awesome. Thank you. So speaking a little bit about that feedback, we're going to now cover the tutorial system. I have not personally been through this myself, so Charlie, I will let you explain it, and then if any of the alum have comments about the tutorial system, by all means, feel free to jump in too.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, this is the really where it comes into the learning experience being quite unique and wanting you to feel. I mean, coming to the UK is like hopefully going to be like getting into a warm bath. You know, we speak a common language. The climate hopefully is, a bit similar. The tuition bit here is different. Instead of being in a classroom with 50 or 100, 200 other students all in a large academic theatre, we study this in a far more intimate class size, and that's really where we come into our course selection and making sure we try and balance the number of students across our learning. The idea is that you'll meet with your tutor. Your seminars will probably be in groups of 4s, 5s, 6s, and then your tutorial actually you'll meet once a week with your professor, more intimately and maybe a one-on-one, one-to-one, or a group or pairs once a week. And this is where you get an opportunity to really delve into the topic and become familiar with your course and be challenged a little bit more personally by your expert maybe than you would perhaps in an auditorium with 200 people. It can get a little bit, and I guess this is one of the things to get used to. It's not supposed to be an anxiety type fear, but it's something that's new, and it's something I think you don't do in the US, but it definitely helps shape this educational process. What the professors do in this time is challenge you to take your thoughts to new levels, bring in concepts, and then enable you during the rest of the week and tuition to go and expand that in the local libraries and really kind of become immersed in your subject. What it became apparent to me from one of our recent presentations for our students at another partner institution was around the fact that the learning never really stops. They love the fact they had their classes, and the classroom schedule I think is quite kind. You're going to have plenty of time for independent study and exploring the city, going and visiting new places. But then, having meals like on Monday with your professor, the conversations that develop over breakfast and over lunch and over dinner mean that it's a softer approach to learning that kind of continues throughout your entire stay there. I think it stops or prohibits the stop start of classroom and going to do something else. It becomes more of a continued journey. Hopefully the guys can fill you in a little bit more about this, but it's definitely a unique part of the program that you won't find in other study abroad programs. And I think it's a real strength for Oxford, which is why when you look at how many students versus academics there are in Oxford, there is almost an equal number of them, because they don't teach huge classrooms. I think that the learning experience is enriched for that. Hopefully, Bella and Iris can give you a bit of feedback, and Alicia as well, in terms of how they found it. But this is something that I think will be a real highlight to the program for you from your learning perspective. Or not.
Well, I was gonna wait for Bella to go,
Wait,
but
I
I
can
didn't say
go.
that. No, it's
I can
okay. Yeah,
go.
go ahead, Bella.
Okay, so I did the environmental studies program, and honestly, I was like a little nervous about like what a professor at Oxford would be like because I feel like they'd be very strict and just kind of like intimidating. But honestly, like doing the tutorials, obviously, Dr. Richard Grove is just very nice and like you can talk to him about anything. He goes on the Wales trip with you. Like you have multiple days to ask him anything you want. And he's honestly just like a great professor and person and not intimidating whatsoever. But like the tutorials once a week for me were really helpful because I just got like a better perspective of what each paper was supposed to be on. And then honestly, he would also like ask me questions about myself and like just get to know me better, which was really nice with like a professor relationship.
Yeah, I'll say two things. I mean, I think the one thing that I was able to take into this semester was like it kind of changed the way that I engage with my professors and what I expect from my professors here at University of Michigan. Because like similarly to like Catherine Dilly, who was my professor and Alicia's professor, like she like you will get out what you put in. I know that's kind of corny to say, but like she knows so much about Jane Austen. And I think what was really incredible too, like I had never really thought about Jane Austen in the context of like colonialism or empire. And so that's something that I'm interested in like in an American context. But I don't know, like there's a lot to consider. Like I being in a space where the architecture is like 600 years older than anything that I see in like my normal day-to-day life, like that's another reason I went there. Um, yeah, there's so many amazing things. And then the last thing I'll say too is that as I go and I am looking to apply for grad school, that was really my like teaser if I wanted to go and apply for a master's in, the UK, or overseas, because that would also mean that I need to work there. Again, like we can talk more about it, but like this program really clarified a lot for me, for grad school and like my last semester here or last year here.
I think that listening to Bella and Iris speak really warms my heart because I believe very, very strongly in the power of this program and everything that it has to offer. Like Iris said, I was a student 2 years ago. I did it the summer before my senior year at Michigan, and I took the Jane Austen course. And to this day, I worship the ground that Catherine Dill walks on. That woman is absolutely brilliant to her core. And having the opportunity to talk to her my first year as a student, and then this past year as in a different role as graduate advisor, I agree. The learning never stops. Even in the role that I had last summer, I was continuously learning and getting to return to these places and keep hearing conversations and keep being a part of these conversations. It is a truly, truly enriching experience at its core. And I truly once in a lifetime opportunity. I encourage every single one of you to take full advantage of it, and to make the absolute most of it. Like Bella mentioned, Dr. Richard Grove is, again, absolutely brilliant. That man, wow. He's a blacksmith, he lives on a ship, and he will 1000% talk to you about it if you want
And
some
he's
more.
so chill. He's so chill.
He's great. He leads the Wales
Yeah,
excursion.
yeah. Sorry, Alicia.
Nicest man ever.
But as you can see, these are people and these are courses that stay with you and that continue to make a difference in your academics even after the program. So take that to heart and really consider it.
I'll say two last quick things. Sorry. I wrote a lot for the essays because I really enjoyed what we were working with, and I will say I pulled all-nighters for the essays, but I also we went Bella and I and we took trips, we went to London, we enjoyed ourselves, it was a great balance. And the last thing I'll say is I mean, yeah, Dilly is incredible, and it's only I don't know if it seemed like a short time to me, but my connection with Dilly, now that I'm thinking about grad school in the UK, it's I have that connection. She teaches there, and so does Dr. Grove. I don't know. It feels like letter of recommendations are always kind of approached as a years long thing, but the intensity of this environment and really the relationship you get with the professors is incredible. And also Charlie's incredible. If Alicia is going to be the graduate student advisor again, incredible. So I highly recommend it for sure.
Thank you all so much. The next slide is going to talk a little bit more about a sample structure for what a schedule might look like, and then going into some details again about those credits. So the thing I will say for the credits is again the English and the medieval history are 6 credits is the standard. And then there is an optional 2 credit additional paper that involves the whale excursion. So students will have to decide before they go abroad whether they plan to do that additional 2 credit option or not. It does not change the price of the program. It is the same whether you do the 6 credit or the 8 credit option. However, for the environmental science, it is an 8 credit program. So you don't have a choice. That is the track. That is what's set forth. And for the sort of sample schedule that's listed here, I don't know if any of the alum want to speak to sort of how much time outside of class and seminars and other things you were putting in work, or sort of what a day-to-day experience was like for you all.
Yeah. For me, for my course, it was 2 days a week. So very similar to this schedule. And then on Wednesdays, we had most of our excursions. I don't know if that'll be different this year, but we would have the full day excursion. And then honestly, you have a lot of free time. I mean, I obviously was doing papers and my presentations I had to do, but I usually would do that in the morning. And then after lunch, I would do a lot of just exploring. You're in such a good location, you can literally walk anywhere. And yeah, and then on the weekends, I did a lot of trips. Went to London, which was really fun. And then one weekend, I met up with my other friends abroad who were in Italy. So that was awesome. And then on Mondays, I think it'll be the same, but we had the details and then the little presentation with the whole program and then the formal dinner.
Yeah, just to elaborate whilst we're on this, then, the difference between the environmental course and the reason why there are other credits, it's not extra work as such, as they will just in the course of the environmental program, the way it's been structured is they do those assignments in class. and the other programs just probably do one less assignment during the kind of course of the tuition. So it's entirely optional to you. There is no penalty to apply to a 6 credit class or an 8. As Elise said, there's no cost difference. It's a case of submitting the extra assignment. I'm pretty sure in Iris's example, submitting it at 5 to midnight on on the day of the actual deadline on the 30th of September, which I thought was pretty, which is pretty awesome. But what a piece of work, by the way, in terms of insight. And it's fascinating reading them. It actually is quite humbling and hearing our other students from the programs who have submitted the work as well, and the things they took away. So that's a pretty standard layout. The Magdalen library you'll have access to is open 24 hours a day, and you'll also have access to the Bodleian library. And some students use that more than others. It's just an incredibly historic building. And it's not like the general public have to go there and make an appointment and get kind of taken around with a tour guide, and you kind of get access to it as an Oxford student or would. A very prestigious level of access, and I think it brings a whole new dimension to your studies. So
Really,
yeah, the class schedules are pretty much identical to the way the guys have described it. Wednesdays tend to be our excursions, and we'll talk about some of those in terms of the places we go, whether it's places like the Stratford upon Avon trip and to the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, where we take the entire program to a live performance at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, or Bath, or Chawton House, which I think was Jane Austen's home, and Winchester for the through the cathedral. So there's incredible opportunities to get out and see. And again, we make sure that the visits and excursions are interdisciplinary. So no matter which your track, you're going to be able to tie into all these different elements of learning from those.
really quickly, I know some students in the past have been a bit confused about what the difference is between class, lecture, and seminar. Would you all be able to sort of clarify that?
Guys, you're probably
Yeah.
best off covering that one.
Oh, wait, sorry, say that again, Charlie.
You go ahead, Irish. Yeah, it's just because you
Okay,
guys
yeah.
cover that one.
So class, like this example schedule, I'll say like for 1 to 3 class, that would be say for example we needed to read Pride and Prejudice and like Sense and Sensibility, we would come and Dilly would like ask us questions. That was kind of like our open forum kind of discussion as a class. The lecture was like Dilly, for example, like because the class is Jane Austen in text and context, she would really try and like tie her lecture to either the excursion that we did or like Bath. Jane Austen lived in Bath, so the lecture that week would likely be talking about Jane Austen's connection to Bath, like or the history in the history of Bath too. I mean, she's incredible. She's a historian as well as a. I think she's a historian first, and she really just likes Jane Austen. Like you can tell. And I'm not speaking to her like subject like knowledge because she had like, she's legit. But yeah, she knows a lot. And then I would say and then the seminars when like guest lecturers will come in. Like we went to like one of the NBA ones. There were. Can you remind me of the dude that did all the? Sorry, this is. I'm not describing him very well, but he was. I think he knows your father, and he came in and he'd done like work for a long time in the climate, and we heard that. Very interdisciplinary, the seminars, but that's like, yeah, the seminars. Um, and
There
then the
was the
tutorial
Arctic.
too.
There was the Arctic one, wasn't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking of. Yes, sir. And then yeah, and then tutorials too. That's not on the. Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah, individual tutorial. Yeah, and I feel like the tutorials I did have three. We had 3 weeks of those, I think. But yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Anyone else want to say anything? If not, totally fine. Just wanted to try and clarify that for others. Cool. All right. So moving on to the accommodations and daily living. Housing. Again, Charlie, I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, so we spread the accommodation and modeling around 3 areas of the college, but pretty much all within these buildings here. So the new building, which is the newest building in the college, was as new as 1733, which is the room you saw here on the left-hand side, which is kind of typical dormitory accommodation to what we see in University of Michigan dorms, from what I can gather. The cloister is the similar room, more beams and older features, but within the stone walls of the older part of the college. Um, the Teddy Hall accommodation, which will be further up the Iffley Road, will be more modern in what is effectively a townhouse. Probably slightly larger rooms, but then 5 minute walk away from the college. The idea is that you will all have your own individual rooms. You're not sharing rooms. They're not en suite though, so you will be usually sharing on a shared landing with some communal facilities like a small kitchenette, with a toilet and shower facility, with a similar sort of small number of students on your floor. So that's the sort of living accommodation, very much like my undergraduate accommodation was at Lancaster. And then within this, you get access to use kind of communal space within the college. Um, there's no formal sports provision. So if there's stuff like you like to do for sports, there's plenty of things to do. There's some amazing running tracks around Oxford and running routes. There's the Charwell for punting and rowing, etc. But you'll kind of need to bring anything you want specialist equipment for sports yourselves. The benefit of this is that the colleges themselves, especially with their meadows, have these huge open spaces where you can just go to sit under a tree and read a book. In Magdalen's case, as long as you close the gates for the badgers at night, which I think really tickled Elise when we were doing our walk around, you can explore this space and visit other colleges as well. Um, I think it's New College, particularly in Christchurch, have large spaces and parks you can run around as well.
Don't
The
forget the
stud
deer park too. The deer is like not a normal thing at a college. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
And
they're
then you go to
pretty.
high dinner and they're serving you deer, and I'm like, ooh, get out back. Like, what the heck? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no deer with harmed in the creation of this meal, I assure you. Um, no, it's they all have their kind of individual charms. Magdalen definitely has the deer park. Then they advise people don't interact with them and the kind of mini electric fences around this side, but it's just a really calm place. No, there's no link to me, but Addison's Walk, which is a mini island in the middle of the river, kind of walks around the outskirts of the deer park as well. So kind of takes you out of the hustle and bustle of being in what is effectively a city, coming into a really quiet space where you can reflect and chill and relax. And I think that's a really important part of this. As I said here, you can see the photo on the right is the Magdalen Library, which is open 24/7. And there are 5 libraries to choose from. Many of them have kind of different accesses and levels of in text, etc., that be relevant to you, but that's the main one where you'll get your cramming sessions done together. The study space in your room is ideally enabling you to be able to do work yourself in private study too. So it's not like it's just a bed. There's going to be some room for you to kind of sit there and do your work and assignments with relative peace as well.
One thing I do want to mention is if you have any type of mobility issues or other concerns, once you are accepted to the program, please let us know as soon as possible because there are a lot of challenges in terms of accessibility because of just how ancient these spaces are. They are not the most user-friendly in a lot of ways. So we want to make sure that your accommodations can be met. And the sooner you let us know about those things, the better chance that you have of being able to have the taken care of or figured out. So just be aware of that and please work with us. We want to be able to allow all students to participate, but it is just something to keep in mind.
Can I say
Yes.
too? Oh, sorry, Charlie.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, it's also if you get put in I was in the cloisters, and like again, that's where the monks were living in like the 12th century. So I mean, it gets hot up there. Um, there were fans available. Like some people purchased fans, but then also the porter, we were able to get fans from the porters. Um, I would also say that that's something like if you know that like sleeping in maybe a warmer room would maybe be like something that you would struggle with because I was like sweating. Before I got my fan, like first 2 days I was sweating. So I think that's another thing to maybe consider. Like, if it's important for you, like, I don't know, mental health, like sleeping, like physical health, like that is important. And yeah, the mobility, I appreciate y'all bringing that up too. But I think the temperature thing, because we're American, like we might feel that a little
No,
more.
definitely. I think a lot of students don't understand, like they just don't think about the fact that air conditioning is not thought of and utilized in the same way outside of the US. So we
Hmm.
are very spoiled in terms of accessibility when it comes to air conditioning. And so when we're used to being able to like get out of the heat and escape from it in an air conditioned space, that doesn't exist in the same way in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so that's a great bit. I appreciate that insight a lot, Iris. Thank you.
And I'll also say, like, I don't know. I really tried to cope with it by like I'm like, this is where the monks were living in the 12th century. Like they were burning up. Like I can honestly, like I can make it through. And I'm not even religious like that, but I was like, that's how I coped with it. Honestly,
If
you
the monks can do it, I can do it.
right? Like yeah. Anyway,
I love it. Um, so moving on to sort of food and meals. Again, Charlie, I'll let you take lead on this. But the one note I will say is again, if you have any dietary restrictions or allergies, please, once you've accepted your place, like let us know as soon as possible, so that Oxford can accommodate you. Because again, we want to make sure that your needs are taken care of, as you experience this program.
Yeah, it's a good point. There's a good choice of food available. So here is the kind of main hall, the dining hall, and the food is served in the buttery, which is the kind of serving hatch area. It's just in the foreground behind where the photograph's being taken. So all your breakfast, lunch, and dinners will be served here. Um, are Monday to Saturday, and the idea is that you will be given some time frames. We look at when the classes are scheduled, and we're going to be kind of staggering students in kind of different times to make sure that they all get that opportunity to get their diets requirements sorted. And when you apply, we send you a mini survey that's just going to give us all the information we need to know about your dietary requirements. For most people, they have self-managed dietary preferences and requirements, which we're able to accommodate. Um, and a good choice from what I can gather from the students. It's slightly different to US food. I think there's going to be some new cultural variances there. I think there's a lot less GM, genetically modified produce, so we don't really use or allowed to put that in any of our food in the UK. I'm not sure if that's still a thing in the US, but you'll notice things taste a little bit different. But I think it's all part of the fabric of travel and experiencing new places. This then means on the weekend you kind of sort your own meals out a little bit more, except we do only a dinner on the Sunday. And on the Monday is where we do our fine dining. You normally have a card if you have anything like vegetarian or dairy free or gluten free, which you can present at the point of getting your food, which normally I think Alicia, our GRA, would hand out to you on arrival for sort of meal vouchers, etc. It just means when we do things like that and the pack lunches for the excursions, I think you guys call it a sack lunch. It means that anyone with the specific dietary requirements or allergies is able to come and get their food first and make sure that their needs are sorted. And the college have been really good at that. So we've never had any issues being able to overcome sort of dietary requirements. So as I said, the Monday night thing is a little bit different. It's where we have a more grand meal. We bring in a guest speaker. Last year's guest speakers included a medieval armorer who was involved with making weapons and armory on various Hollywood films, and we brought in a nature musician who was able to create incredible soundscapes by putting microphones into melting glaciers and lakes and ponds to capture the sound of photosynthesis or ice melting. We obviously brought in Professor David Drury, who is an incredible Arctic scientist and taught in terms of his experience of being in the Arctic region for history, seeing how the kind of ownership of that has changed and the kind of ramifications of that to indigenous people and to climate and to society. And the idea is just to try and give you a well-rounded mixture of different themes. And for those of you who aren't massive Shakespeare buffs, you know, when we come to do the Shakespeare play, we bring in a Shakespeare expert to come and explain to you what the play is about, so you can understand it a little bit more and the nuances and context and talk around. So when you be able to go to the theatre to understand a little bit more about what it is you're going to be seeing, so we're not just kind of chucking you into experiences. I think we try and sort of hold your hand as much as possible, help you understand. These drinks receptions we held out on the lawn. I think we had amazing weather except for just one washout last year, which is, if anyone's been to England before, you'll know it rains a lot. It didn't rain so much last summer. We had an amazing heat wave during our Wales excursion, which definitely pushed um, our organizational skills for the first time in a number of years, which was great. And I think everything came through with flying colors, but we're just adapting to the fact that the world is changing a little bit. So you'll be getting a survey from Alicia, who's going to ask you, you know, helping us to understand your needs ahead of travel, to make sure that we've kind of put you in the best place. We'll come on to Wales excursion, I think, in a minute. And I'll explain how that would interact with people with those sort of needs as well. But yeah, hopefully that covers off the food angle.
Yep, and Wales excursion is next, so perfectly led in. So one thing to note for this is that this is included for all students as part of the program. So whether you are doing the 2 credit additional or not, you will still be participating in the excursion itself. So again, that's just sort of a staple experience for all students in the program to get to experience this 4 day long travel through Wales, which I'm so jealous that you all get to do every time. If you want to talk a little bit about it, Charlie, and then Alum, if you quickly have anything you want to add, we are getting a little closer on time than I anticipated. But feel free to take it away.
Yeah, I'll fly through this. I mean, this is a signature part of the program. If you go on our website and check out the video, you're going to see some of the most dramatic and incredible aspects of the program will be around this trip. This has been running for 40 years. Oxford, its location means we get out to Bath and sort of Gloucester and up into South Wales pretty easy from Oxford, and then we travel up the Welsh coast up to North Wales, all the way up out to the tip of Anglesey into the Irish Sea, and then back through Shropshire, which is where I'm coming to you from today, which is kind of between Wales and Birmingham, and then back down to Oxford. We're going to simplify it a little bit, so there'll be some feedback from the students, I'm sure, in a minute on the alum. We're just going to simplify the program. I think we tried to do an awful lot with this, and we're just going to make sure we're spending a little bit more time at each site this in 2026. Slow things down a little bit. I think it was definitely a case of trying to do loads of great stuff and experiences. What we found is that the students would like to know a little bit more about when the next stop is, because over a 3 or 4 day trip, you're going to want to get some downtime and get a bit of rest and sleep, and probably have your photo taken of yourself whilst you're asleep by our GRA, which was putting together quite an interesting and humorous video at the end. Um, it's helpful to know when is the next stop off and what we're going to be doing there, and just helping give you guys as much information as possible. So we're going to see some incredible medieval abbey ruins from Tintern. Going to discover how the literary impact of that from some of the seminal works of William Wordsworth and Shakespeare tie in to some of the sites we see as well. We're going to see the evolution of Wales as a dramatic landscape, and North Wales particularly was just above the ice sheet that covered most of Europe around 25,000 years ago. So there's some incredibly dramatic mountain shapes and structures around there. We're going to have more faculty on the trip as well. We actually have a queue of our professors who are wanting to get onto the trip for 2026. I'll be accompanying the trip as well, as well as our GRA. The idea is it's going to take you through a sort of immersive tour of the culture, the landscape, and then the application of what all this means to today in terms of language, the impact of the perception and cultural differences between this nation that is effectively part of our union of countries, but its own country with its own language, its own history. Interesting cultural, I guess, frictions which still exist even today. And the idea is that you go away afterwards, not just sort of seeing Oxford, but also seeing a whole other country here as well. And for most people, I think Wales is a place they're going to want to go back to again and again in their future. And some of the students actually like to go as well. Got a question here. Do you know, could you speak to who the faculty will be in 2026? So the faculty accompanying us on this program will be Dr. Richard Grove, who leads our environmental program. Myself will be accompanying the program. Alicia, we're potentially looking at adding in another graduate resident advisor, depending on the number of students we get for this year, but we have scaled this for increasing our student numbers. And we also have interest from Professor Catherine Dill, who is tripping over the opportunity to join us on the program as well. So another favorite of the program. I hope that helps answer your question, Iris. This is going to be a place where we pack sack lunches with us during the day, and we have evening meals out. Myself and the GRA work hard at each location to make sure that your meals are provided. You're picking your menu choices ahead of time, and you're going to see different parts of this wonderful country as you go. And that's pretty much it. It's quite easy to understand. I will say this, that it's in part of the program. Having said that, if we have students who get there and at the end of the day maybe have issues or mobility challenges whereby they get a bit bogged down or overwhelmed with how much is involved and they want to sit that program out, they're able to. Last year we had a student, I think that I went to rescue, I guess is the best word. It's kind of my promise to you guys is you get looked after. Who's just a little bit overwhelmed by the whole thing, wasn't feeling too great. So I drove out to North Wales into the program, picked them up and returned them back to Oxford. This year, we're just going to sort of make sure that we have plenty of checks in with people before we attend, that they're aware of what's going on. We're not going to be climbing mountains necessarily or running marathons, but there's probably a bit more of a physical element to being involved in terms of the tiring element that it's worth pointing out. So as I said, the credit paper that ties into this is included in the environmental studies program. The medieval students and literature students are able to write something if they wish around their study around the Welsh context of field trip afterwards with Professor Grove's help, and they submit that later. This is submitted, as you can see here, at the end of September, and you just need to let us know. Definitely let Elise and C just know by the 15th of March on whether or not you'd like to go ahead and do that.
As part of your CGIS application in mCompass, there will be a questionnaire that asks whether you're planning to do the 2 credit option. So when you go to apply, you will be asked that. But then you have until March 15th to change your mind. And that's when the final decisions have to be made. At that point, you have locked in. It is the same as having decided to register for a course on campus. Like that is your final decision date to figure out whether you'll be doing so or not.
Awesome.
And then moving on to our last bit, so the logistics for the application process and funding. So how to actually apply to the program. So you will go to mCompass. If you search for Oxford, in the mCompass search, only 2 programs come up. You're going to want to look for the one that is Magdalen College in particular. This is a screenshot of what it currently looks like on the overview page. And you will click apply now, and that is how you start your application. Once you start the application, there are several requirements that you must complete, including a letter of recommendation from a U of M instructor. So I highly recommend reaching out preemptively via email to that professor or asking them in person if they're willing to write you a letter of rec, because when you are in the mCompass application, there is just a place for you to put the instructor's name and UMich email, and then the system prompts them with a, hey, you've been asked to write a letter of rec, blah, blah, blah. So it's a good idea to ask them first if they are willing to do so before you just send that out. Some things to be aware of, eligibility requirements, you must have at least a 3.0 GPA. Ideally, you'll be a rising junior or senior, although rising sophomores will be looked at on a case-by-case basis. So the application process itself. So the first thing is you'll complete the mCompass application. This is due by February 1st. Again, this includes that letter of recommendation request. So you have some time now to start thinking about who you might want to ask for that recommendation. I highly encourage you to give them at least 3 weeks to complete that, if not more. The sooner you ask, the better. Then you will complete the Oxford Academic Summer School application. This is also due by February 1st. Please do note that on the application, it mentions that you need to email attachments to the program when you fill out the application. That is for individuals applying independently. I am the one that is going to handle the attachments. So you just have to complete what is on the website. After the February 1st deadline has passed, our office will review the applications in Compass. Any of the applications that are completed, where students meet all of the eligibility criteria, you will be what is considered nominated. So basically that's us saying, yes, we see fit for you to be able to be looked at as a possible participant for this program. If you are nominated, then I will forward the letter of rec that we received from your professor in Compass, as well as a copy of your unofficial transcript, which I have access to in your advising file. And I will send that along to the Oxford team so that they can finalize their review to see who will be offered a spot. And then offers are made by no later than March 30th. You'll be notified about whether you've been admitted or not. And you will need to, decide whether you're accepting your spot. Charlie will provide plenty of details in that acceptance offer for like when the deadline is and other things to fill out. But that is the general process. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moving on. So last little bit I wanted to talk about before we wrap up and pass it over to the alums for any last tidbits they have is the financial information. So the program costs can be found on Compass. On that screenshot that I shared earlier, you'll see that there's all these different tabs. The finances tab is where the budget sheets live. I don't have the 2026 one finalized yet, but you can look at the 2025 budget sheet as sort of a baseline for what to anticipate, and then know that the costs are likely to be a little bit more due to inflation. I will try to get that out as soon as possible, but there's a lot going on still. So it'll definitely be out before, the deadline for the application. But that breakdown goes into as many different things as we can, try to help you anticipate for the cost. So it'll talk about the travel health insurance you're required to have from the university, the program fee we already mentioned earlier in the presentation, things like airfare, the costs for any personal items like toiletries and transportation and other things like that. So that's all broken down to try to give you an estimate. We encourage you to consult the Office of Financial Aid if you have any questions about your eligibility for financial aid for study abroad. They have a specific study abroad team within their office, so please reach out to this email in particular and not the general OFA inbox because it's just going to get routed to this email anyway. And then for scholarships, the main scholarship that we have is the LSA Study Abroad Scholarship. This is a scholarship that aims to fill unmet need after all other financial aid has been applied. So for many students, if you receive financial aid for a typical spring, summer semester, there's a good chance that a lot of that aid can be applied to this program as well. But you'll always want to confirm with the Office of Financial Aid, as CGIS does not have access to students' financial details. So for the LSA Study Abroad Scholarship, it is needs-based, and the award amounts do vary based on the cost of attendance for the program that you're looking at. However, on average, students do receive around $4,000. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out to LSA Scholarships. This application is open currently, and it is due on February 7th. They are very strict about not accepting late applications, so please make sure that you have that taken care of if you plan to apply. And then there are also other scholarships that are available. So some are going to be need-based, so based off of your FAFSA, and some are not. A couple ones to highlight really quickly are the Mark and Mira Sorensen International Travel Scholarship. This one is, I believe, through the International Center. And then the First Gen Education Abroad Scholarship is so for first gen students, and that one is through the Provost Office. And then if you click on this more, and I'll be sending out these slides to everyone that registered for the event. If you click on the more section, it takes you to our curated spreadsheet on the CGIS website of all of the scholarships that we are currently aware of. They are broken down and labeled as to whether they are financial needs based or merit based or both. And so you can take a look at those and see what scholarships you might be eligible for, and then apply for those. And then also feel free to search beyond that as well. These are just the ones that we are currently aware of that are applicable to study abroad. So there's definitely more that are out there that we probably aren't currently aware of. So don't limit your research just to that. The last thing I'll say in terms of funding is definitely don't be afraid to also ask your major and minor departments. You'd be surprised, a lot of them will have some funds set aside for sort of experiential type learning opportunities like study abroad or internships or other things. And if you ask, the worst they say is no, the best they say is yes, here's some funds. So it can definitely be a good idea to see what options are out there for that as well. And then that is all I have. So any last things that our alum want to share? I wasn't able to get Iris's stuff added, but Iris, if you want to drop that in the chat, if you're willing to share your email and to be a resource as well. But if any of our three alums have any remaining things they want to share or highlight about the program experience, now is your chance.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if you guys have any questions, I'll also put my email in the chat. Be happy to answer any of them. And it was such an amazing experience. So please apply. Like, you won't regret it.
Mm, Yeah, I will just sign off by just saying that I am happy to reach out. It's finals week, so if I don't get back to you soon, I will get back to you, and I would love to talk about it, especially specific questions. I could talk a lot, but we are over time, and yeah, thank y'all.
As always, if there's anything that you need from me, please feel free to reach out. My email is right there. And yeah, I'm so excited to meet you guys.
All right. Any final questions from any of our attendees at all? Feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat.
I actually have a question about the letters of recommendation.
Sure.
So just to clarify, do they have to be submitted at the same time as the application, or is
Yes.
it something? Oh, okay.
Yep. So they must be submitted by your instructor within the mCompass system by that February 1st deadline. So everything has to be completed for the application in mCompass by 11:59 p.m. on February 1st.
I see. But if I've like in the case of like if you were concurrently working on your side of the application and the recommender was also working on their side of it, like as long as it's all submitted by the day, that's how,
Correct.
is that how it goes? Okay.
Yep.
Great, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Basically, you put in their name and email, and the system will send an email directly to them that says, "Here's a link to click on to get instructions and where to submit." And so they can do that whenever after they've been sent that link. It just needs to be done by the application deadline in order to be included in your application and have your application considered.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. Anything else?
So I will be a rising sophomore. Do you recommend that I apply this year, or should I just wait until next year when I'm a
Charlie,
rising
that
junior?
Charlie, that's sort of up to you. I know historically for some other CGIS programs, and again, I can't speak to this one, we do tend to prioritize older students just because this would be, they would have less opportunities to potentially do this. But Charlie and the Oxford team are the ones that make the final admissions decisions. So I'm basically just a filter that sends the completed good ones onto him.
Yeah, I think as long as the GPA is in good standing, I think your application is going to be treated as it would be with anybody else's. It really comes down to you. I don't have any negative bias or preference to applying year. So I think from your perspective, Scarlett, it really comes down to you. So a number of students did apply to me last year, either late or during the process, saying, "Hey, look, just to say." I'm going to be applying next year. I've looked at this. I'm really interested. Can I already register my interest, 12 months in advance? And that was fine too. So it really comes down to where you are. So hopefully that helps, but you're not going to be in any way disadvantaged.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I'm just going to put my email in the chat, guys, as well. So if you have any questions, I mean, all my details are on the website. Um, Working with the University of Michigan is an absolute privilege. It would be fantastic to see you guys there. I really thank you very much for coming. If anything occurs to you later that you were wanted to ask on a one-to-one, just reach out to me. And hope to see you in July in 2026. And obviously, it goes to it's worth pointing out that we also do a discovery call with all the people we accept onto the program before you go, and that's a real opportunity to get under the skin of it and ask loads more questions about your experience and what you're going to need to prepare for, and great opportunity to ask for the advice of the alumni and GRA on that call as well in terms of things that you're going to want to bring and all that type of pre-departure stuff. So this won't be the last time we see each other before you arrive in Oxford, I'm pleased to say.
All right. Last call. Anything else? Okay. I will have advising appointments. I will not be having advising appointments during the holidays. So probably from like the week of the 19th through to when we return on I think the week of January 5th. I will not have advising appointments, but I'm happy to answer questions via email as well. And we'll definitely have advising appointments throughout January leading up to the application deadline. So feel free to email me or reach out that way too. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Iris, Bella, great to see you again. Thanks so much for supporting.